Hello, folks. Welcome back to Rugby Senate. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania for a recap on a rather disappointing outcome in Bloemfontein at Toyota Stadium this past weekend, where the Springboks lose for the first time in recorded history ever to Wales at home. Yep. 13-12 was the final at Toyota Stadium, and we're still shaking our heads on this one. South Africa's up 12-3 with only around 10 minutes left in the game, and they choked this one away with ill discipline. Very disappointing. A couple things up front. First off, Angus Gardner from Australia called a pretty good game, although some people take exception. You're never going to be happy with everything that happens on the field from officials, but they have a tough job, and I think Angus Gardner did a pretty good job, especially for an Australian. You listening, Nick Berry? Anyway, but seriously. Well-called game on his part. He had good control of this game, speaking to the players, and managed it quite well. Now, here's a topic I want to talk about, which I take deep offense to. This nonsense, even perpetuated by the likes of the coach himself, Jacques Nienaber, saying that, well, if we'd started the starting 15, it wouldn't have been any different. Excuse me? This is a team with the former Rugby Player of the Year, World Rugby Player of the Year, Peter Steph du Toit, with URC champions all over it. Player of the Year for the URC, Evan Roos. We have Bulls and Stormers all over this team. There's a team full of World Cup champions and people who play in Japan and in Europe. And to hear this described as a B-side and insult to Wales, I think, frankly, said was insulting before the game, and I stand by it. This starting 15 was as good or better than the one that barely escaped with a win last week. People seem to forget that. The Springboks were turgid for most of the game in the first round. They were so fortunate to have won that game. So fortunate. This team this week didn't get it done. It's as simple as that. They just didn't get it done. They failed to capitalize on possession. They had the ball all the time in Wales' end, and they failed to capitalize. One mistake after another, one turner after another. Bad decision here, bad decision there. It's unfortunate, but that is the reality. That is the reality. You know, the previous week, Jasper Wiese, man of the match, knocked the ball on at the end of the game, giving Wales possession, and they quickly got down and scored on a rolling maul, a try, to tie it up at 29-29. If only Dan Biggar had been able to hook it slightly to the left, it would have been 31-29, and that game would have ended differently, and we might see Wales now ahead 2-0. South Africa's performance is not up to par. And it's not because of the selection of players. The players were more than capable of defeating this Wales side. Now, not taking anything away from Wales. They earned this victory, and their first ever, congratulations, Wales, the first ever victory on South African soil. But this was missed opportunities. Henri Pollard missed 2 penalty conversions, one of which was rather simple, and that's 6 points right there. Add that to their total, it's 18-13, and there's your result. But they didn't get it done. I have to say this, though, that Dan Biggar went off with a shoulder injury after niggling it a couple times, finally went off. And Wales improved dramatically with him off the pitch. Sorry, Dan. But the reality is that Gareth Anscombe was lights out. He was the X factor. And Gareth Anscombe is one of the reasons why Wales won this game. He was solid on the conversion and the penalty that he kicked. Really good, well done by him. Now, during the game, Alan Wyn-Jones was issued a yellow card. 2 games in a row now he got a yellow card. And he felt undone by it. He felt it was unjust. You used to see him pouting and complaining. And I said at the time that watching the replay, which was from a very select angle, it appeared as if he had a basis to be upset. It appeared as if he had nothing to do with touching the ball and knocking it out cynically. So why did Angus Gardner give him a card? The side official is the one that called the penalty, and Angus agreed with him. And they wouldn't go to the TMO. And I was on Alan Wyn-Jones' side. That is until on Twitter, occasionally Twitter has useful function. On Twitter, someone posted the video from the other camera angle, which we weren't shown by the television crew. And that was when Alan Wyn-Jones clearly slapped the ball out of play and stopped a try for me. I think World Rugby needs to take a look at that. And I was wrong, Alan Wyn-Jones. You deserve the yellow card. And in retrospect, it was well called by the officials. Ooh, man. Comments about the starting team. First off, Kurtley Arendse, Evan Roos, 2 debutants in the starting lineup. There were 14 changes from the previous week. The only starting player that remained in the starting lineup was Eben Etzebeth, who got his 99th cap. This test against Wales this weekend will be his 100th cap. A big celebration for Eben Etzebeth. He's still a relatively young player. But Curtly Arendse and Evan Roos got their first caps, well-deserved. Curtly Arendse didn't get much opportunity for ball in hand, but made some incredible tackles and showed some excitement. Unfortunately, he was usually past the ball in a situation where there was nowhere for him to go. So we'll see more from him. Evan Roos was a monster. He did a great job. And beyond that, Peter Steph Dutoy was back for his first appearance in ages after shoulder surgery, and he went the full 80 minutes and played well. As I said, Eben Etzebeth was out there, and he was a bit of a monster too. Thomas Dutoy also had a big impact playing for the starting lineup. So if I gave scores, I would give a handful of scores on players' performance out of 10. I'd say Evan Roos was a 7 out of 10. Not bad for a debutant. Peter Steph Dutoy, a 6, and I'll explain why in a moment. Eben Etzebeth, 7. Thomas Dutoy, 7. And Deon Fourie, coming off the bench, also a debutant, 36 years old, I'd say he's a 7. He was really impactful the short amount of time he was out there. Ruan Nortje also came off the bench, so that's fantastic, the Bulls player there. So Stormer and a Bull coming off the bench there for their debut in a Springbok jersey. Now, the reason I give Peter Steph Dutoy only a 6 is that at times he seemed a little bit lost. And let's not forget that 10 seconds into this game, the tenor was set and the die was cast. Now, it didn't have to end this way, but 10 seconds in, Peter Steph Dutoy is called off his feet by Angus Gardner right in front of the post, and Dan Baker kicks it through. It's 3-0 Wales. Take those 3 points off, and it's 12-10 final. So that's why he gets the 6. Anyway, that's harsh. Yeah, I suppose, but it is harsh. Andre Pollard, a lot of analysts are saying did a great job. I thought he did an okay job. But here's an interesting stat for you folks. This is something a lot of people haven't really noticed. Maybe some have. This is the first time in Test history that South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia all lost at home in the Southern Hemisphere. Wow. First time ever. In fact, it's only like the third time they've ever all lost, or fourth time ever they all lost on the same day. But that's, of course, somewhere, traveling and not at home. But it's the first time ever all 3 of these rugby powerhouses have lost at home in the Southern Hemisphere on the same day. So if I was to rate the Springboks in this game, I would give them a C-. A C-. So much left on the pitch. It's unfortunate, but they did, and that's where it's at. So where do we go from here? Congratulations to Wales on their first ever victory in South Africa in 58 years of trying and over a century of playing South Africa and 58 years of playing Test in South Africa. This is their first win ever. Well done. And Gareth Anscombe, he is the X-Factor man of the day, no doubt about it. Don't know if Dan Biggar's going to be able to go in the next game. If not, Gareth Anscombe is not a drop-off. As you can see, he performed very well. Not that we thought he was a drop-off, just saying that people forget him sometimes. Alan Wyn-Jones, try your play acting a little bit better, brother. Whatever side is selected, we'll see what happens. But one thing I have to say about this is I did warn people before this game and for this entire series that Jacques Nienaber and RSA Erasmus are playing around. What I mean by that is that just like in 2018 when Rossi took over, he put players out who were inexperienced and didn't really seem to care about getting the win. It was about blood testing the players, and that's what happened again here with these 2 teams. There were players that started the first week that I raised my eyebrows about. I thought they should have been the starting 15th. They were serious about winning, and I was correct. Elton Yankees. And in this week, there were players that maybe shouldn't have been out there. But whatever the case is, they have a deep roster of 43 selections, and you can see it. So the Springboks can beat anybody every day of the week, but not the way they're playing right now. They need to find some synergy, and they need to start capitalizing. One of the biggest problems I find with the Springboks throughout my history of being a fan is it seems, hesitation to strike fear in their opponents at times. They're happy playing phases and recycling the ball, and open play is rare. We saw some of that in the last couple of games, but they really need to make that happen. And I know a lot of people who are diehard Bok fans will say that, no, our way works. Well, it doesn't always. Ask Alistair Coetzee and his 33% winning percentage. Remember that? What a sad, sad time that was. Once again, congratulations to Wales, and we'll see what happens this week. I'll have a preview of that game before it happens after we get an announcement on lineup, and we'll talk about that. Thanks for being a supporter. Smash the button and become a subscriber if you're not one already. Cheers, everybody.